by Earth in its elongated 3,600-plus-year orbit of two suns, one viable the other a dark gravitational mass. Planet X, we know it is there in the glare next to the Sun hidden from view, but when will it come into view? Let's first look at what that means with some Zeta talk science. The orbit of Planet X, Px, is a sling orbit or an orbit that is oblate. It is this way as Planet X has two foci, our Sun and its dead binary twin, which are 68.7 trillion miles from each other, therefore a slinging between two heavenly objects and not a round or elliptical orbit shape characteristic of a single foci orbit. This sling orbit makes our Sun and Solar System only a pass-through point within the sling orbit circuit see above image. This is important to understand. This means that Planet X is bound to pass by Earth since its orbit path extends beyond our Solar System. Hence, once outbound, Planet X will continue moving away from us for several years, then do a turnaround for its return trip for its outbound portion of its sling orbit to the binary twin. Zeta Talk says that this return part of the cycle takes Planet X through our Solar System again on the far side of the Sun. But where will Earth be at that time in its orbit, and why does that matter? Well, we are stopped now in orbit and we hardly know it. Yet will we be stopped again? How will Earth be affected? The Zetas don't say, but they do say it will be much less of a problem for Earth and no second pole shift, just some worldwide earthquakes at the time. Earth, Planet X and the Sun. Earth halted its orbit in December of 2003 but is slowly being pushed backwards due the also stymied, but very slowly progressing Planet X. The Sun is the orbital foci of both planets and remains as part of the lineup sustained by the laws of orbital dynamics. The Earth, Planet X and Sun lineup explained. Since Planet X is sling orbiting our Sun, it passes through our Solar System relatively close to its foci, our Sun. As an aside, many millennia ago, this was not the case. The Planet X passage area was within the asteroid belt, which used to be populated with a few planets, but they were broken down into the asteroids that are there now. Now, when Planet X entered our Solar System in 2002, it was temporarily visible far from the Sun, from our sky view perspective, but that was only for a few months as it quickly traversed the inner Solar System. Image number 1, where it met the Sun's gravity repulsion force slowing its progress dramatically. Planet X then partially circumnavigated the Sun to the ecliptic where it is now. Image number 3, situated between the Earth and the Sun. Also consider that Earth has been stopped in orbit due to diverted particle flows passing around Planet X capturing Earth in what Zeta Talk calls a particle flow cup. Imagine a ping-pong ball floating above a blast of air. It hangs in place because of a similar law of airflow dynamics. So, lest we forget, Earth is the deer in the headlights, not Planet X. Earth is also dithering in place, like the ping-pong ball, with relative positions being kept between Planet X and our Sun respectively from a Solar System left to right concept. So all this simply means that Planet X is rarely visible because it is stationed on the ecliptic within the glare of the Sun due to a more or less static lineup of the constituent heavenly bodies. However, from an interplanetary perspective, Planet X is positioned momentarily between the Earth and our Sun. State of public awareness of Planet X. Some of those in the know about Planet X and the pole shift have already moved to safe ground and others are quietly preparing for the main event now. But there are also many others who are dithering yes or no about Planet X that are waiting and wanting to have a clear undeniable sign that PX is near, real and a clear and present danger before they commit. Who can blame them? This is a natural condition for those who tend to rely only on visual cues to absorb such an abstract and devastating message. Of course there does exist the attachment to the concept that the political hierarchy will take care of us. So many of those cling to the hope that there will be a public announcement alerting the public to Planet X in our Solar System and what that means. When you consider that there has not been an announcement yet and it's been 10 years, it is not reasonable to wait for such an unlikely event. Those people otherwise studied, are using parallel personality skills and other nerve pathways to augment their confidence in the truth of Planet X. Why? Because they sensed the truth of Planet X first, then started reading. Regardless, Those who have studied the history of Planet X do have a basis of knowledge on the subject, so are farther ahead in being able to accept images and videos from a reliable source as valid. Of course, the reliability of images and videos of Planet X is impossible to determine without the relative knowledge, experience in observing and watching for Planet X and the skill in dissecting the constituent parts of an image to determine whether it is a fake. On the other hand, there are many purported pictures and videos of Planet X on the internet, but the majority are misdiagnosed ghost images of the sun, lens flares, sun dogs, window reflections or optical illusions of one sort or another. But we are not interested in nice pictures of the sun, are we? There are still others who cannot accept the reality of Planet X until they see the raw light direct from Planet X in the sky above their heads entering their optic nerve, and even some of those will not believe until they are directly affected. These need multiple concurrent sensory stimulation real-time to break the disbelief in order to accept the existence of Planet X as a threat. Certainly this is true of all people that their body is activated to fight or flight by a direct threat, but before that, all is still abstract and subject to interpretation. Ultimately, once the yet-to-believe finally realize that Planet X is a temporary solar system member factoid and that they are about to experience the penultimate violent hazard, they will no longer need to see it. Finally, let's look at the timing of the passage of Planet X and the resulting pole shift. The best information source in the world concerning Planet X and the pole shift, Zeta Talk, has the rundown to the pole shift in 3 parallel layers. The first layer is a general overview of an umbard progression based on 10. The current phase we are in now, 2013, is the 7 out of 10. The second layer on top of that is the famous Zeta Talk predicted simplified world event sequence. I will offer a key example, and this is exactly what we are watching for now, following Africa's rolling to the west and dropping the floor of the Mediterranean. Is this sequence. Number 1. The devastating southern Japan, then northern Japan earthquakes separated by a matter of weeks or a short duration of months. The North and South Islands are on different continental plates, sequence number 2. Then the author's town gets sloshed by a local earthquake and tsunami, Victoria, BC, sequence number 3. Then the New Madrid earthquakes occur, isolating the eastern U.S. seaboard, image here. Sequence number 4. Very quickly after the New Madrid, 2 to 3 hours, the European tsunami will wash throughout northern Europe with a 200 to 300 foot wave. The final layer is that of the last weeks as detailed here by a current member of the poleshift.ning.com website. The importance of the sequences I have just detailed is that it can't be hidden by those who control the media for their own interests, therefore these are major flags to watch for. I believe we all have 2 essential outlooks against the timing of the pole shift. First, the objective approach. We have the flags, the sequences, but many still want to know when the pole shift is going to happen. The reality is that no human is to know the date of the pole shift, so we all must resolve to accept this as a fact. Human scientists do not have the math and therefore no clue, and even if they did, we know it would never be published. Even if they did. Pole shift, new shocking evidence points to Earth's pole shift. Is a reversal of the Earth's magnetic poles taking place? Volcanoes, earthquakes, strange noises from the sea. New shocking evidence points to a pole shift which, if it happens fast, will cause chaos around the world. A pole reversal, when the Earth's north and south magnetic poles start to swap places, reversing the world's magnetic polarity, has happened before. Scientists who track the history of the planet have identified 74 of these events by studying core samples. These are extracted from hundreds or thousands of feet down in the ground and in the thick polar ice. A sudden shift would throw the Earth's balance out so significantly it could trigger lethal earthquakes, tsunami on a scale we can hardly imagine, capable of washing right across the United States and every other major landmass. Volcanic eruptions so large and widespread that the resulting ash clouds and gases could blanket the sun's rays and trigger a new sudden ice age. Scientists look for evidence of previous Armageddon-style destruction by identifying chaotic sediments where narrow layers of earth, rock and ice record oddball events in the Earth's history in the form of bands of mud and tiny magnetically charged fragments. To scientists, these are clear indicators of sudden floods, ice melt or ash deposits. When this is found outside a long period of the cycle of freezing and melting in the Earth's history, it is an indicator of a pole shift. Pole shifts cause a major increase in the movement of the tectonic plates, the giant lines of opposing cracks in the Earth's crust which push and grind against each other until they periodically release like a balled fist in a closed palm flicking upwards. There are now signs amongst the sharp increase in natural disasters and other strange, apparently unrelated incidents which point towards a possible reversal. It is widely recognized that magnetic north, that point at the top of the globe which compasses and devices which depend on magnetic navigation rely, is shifting increasingly quickly towards Russia from its current position above Greenland and nearer to Canada. It has moved 400 kilometers in the last decade and is accelerating. Our sun swaps its north and south pole every 11-13 years and has just done so. The effect on the sun is to stimulate the number and intensity of solar storms which can have a major effect on the Earth. They can interfere with TV transmissions and power supplies. Other signs which might indicate the effects of a magnetic reversal between magnetic north and south are an unprecedented 7 volcanoes which have started to erupt around the world in the last few days, and a major spike of 7.0 magnitude plus earthquakes, almost all of which I have witnessed personally a few days after the event as a documentary maker. The cycle started in Indonesia in 2004 and occurred again very recently in Nepal. These sharp increases in seismic activity do occur every 30 years or so and may be part of a natural ebb and flow, but they are another aspect of what could be a major trend in the light of the relentless and quickening march of magnetic northeast away from its original position. Pole shift _Renal plus National plus Park. USGS and NASA are very concerned about a new magma chamber the University of Utah have discovered recently under Yellowstone National Park in addition to the enormous lake of molten rock and iron they already knew about. This one is an astonishing 11 times the volume of the Grand Canyon. A sudden pole shift could become the push the magma chamber with the surface area of Los Angeles needs to blow up. If it does, most of North America would be destroyed instantly and a new ice age would begin. Another story which begs the question what on earth is going on is a 300-meter, 900 feet, high island which has appeared from the seabed just north of the tip of Japan in just one night. This area was the origin of the 8.9 magnitude earthquake which ripped through Japan in 2011, causing one of the worst tsunami of all time. Sections of crustal plates which suddenly move under enormous heat and pressure which cause earthquakes and tsunami have been known to move dramatically, although it is often never seen as it occurs miles down on the seabed. A new shelf 800 kilometers, 500 miles, and 60 meter, 180 feet high, appeared off the west coast of Indonesia in 2004 which triggered the infamous tsunami wave which swept completely around the Earth's circumference 3 times. The new Japanese landmass appeared at almost exactly the same time as the Nepal 7.7 magnitude earthquake took place 5,000 kilometers, 3,000 miles, away at the opposite end of the Eurasian tectonic plate. Finally, the weirdest account of nature behaving strangely are reports of a strange humming noise coming from the sea. Scientists have explained this as the effect of the currents running through the oceans. This as the effect
that mankind cannot comprehend. The earth is warming up. Radiation is building. Sickness is running rampant all over the earth. But why? See, if something is just indigenous to earth, maybe mankind can change it. But what we're having is not indigenous to earth. It is not just for earth. The entire solar system is beginning to do a wicked shimmy. And solar activity is a telltale sign of the exotic energy that's coming into the solar system. What it emits, the solar system is responding to, just like your skin responds to infrared light. So does the solar system respond to these exotic particles coming in, because the source is coming close. The source of these waves is coming close. Now, close does not mean right there where you can see it. I can assure you that, but prior to you seeing anything, this world is going to rumble like you never saw before. For the risk of sounding like a person who truly did jump out of the bushes yelling, "It's coming, it's coming."
Joe! Bill! It's coming! It's coming!
Just trying to kind of calm yourselves and hold down this very serious conversation we're going to talk about today. It's not my job to cause anybody to believe, but out of my heart, I do wish to give you warning, a little preparatory time, that you can be prepared and not taken by what you may see coming. It's as simple as that. I'm going to put some things into perspective. It will either confirm the truth within you or not. But in either case, we're going to see drastic changes both in the earth and in mankind. We will see them. Your entire paradigm, what you know as reality, has been secured for a long time. Everything has stayed stationary in the skies. We keep track of seasons and everything else by atomic time. Things of that nature, constants in science and in formulas. We've been spoiled, really. We've had a time of rest for a long time. The only problems we've absolutely had were problems of war. But the great calamities were held back, far and few in between. So then the knowledge that existed so long ago will be thrust in the faces of many in the days to come. Everybody has to be prepared for this, according to the truth that you can take in. Today we're going to discuss preparations for the second wave, what the second wave is, things that have been happening on the earth indicating massive changes that are taking place. I'm not here to connect the dots with anybody else's research, but I'm only here to tell you exactly what I know of myself. It does go with the darkness, a deep darkness that's coming back upon the face of the earth. I tell you this, you guys familiar with the book of Revelation and other texts, you know that something will come upon the face of the earth from below, and something will come upon the earth from above. What comes from below is already here, mingling among men, but you don't know how. Many don't know the explanation of their own dreams. Many don't know the importance of the magnetosphere. Many of us have been spoiled because everything has been somewhat stable. Ladies and gentlemen, that stability is about to be challenged in one of the worst ways it can. And as these things begin to change and alter the earth, so will the minds of mankind become desperate, and war will naturally ensue. And I'm going to explain to you what the darkness is, as best I can, what I'm familiar with. And it takes a toll on everybody who comes in contact with it. In fact, a person who's irresponsible should never seek out darkness. It will surely consume your soul. I tell you this, exotic elements that are coming into the solar system, so will that darkness grow. Darkness will again be upon the face of the earth, and what was ancient will rise up again. Folks, you live in a very different time. Most of what I'm going to say to a lot of people, you won't believe. But then again, no one believes until something happens, and then when something happens, they seek out the source of those who knew. By that time, the sources have they're all but gone. Thus, you're stuck in a place with no instruction, with things you cannot possibly believe, just like the undoing of the earth. There are signs all around you. The interiors of the earth, everything is waking up. The earth right now is about to turn 1 degree. And what indication do you have of that? Does anybody have an indication of that? And it's not going to take a long time for the earth to shift 1 degree in a tilt. It's huge. 1 degree. 1 degree is going to continue to change the weather in an abrupt way. The water will move. Melting will start. And this is what they always knew about. It is under the cover of global warming. I tell you this, the changes of the earth have nothing to do with humanity and everything to do with truth, and it's covered over with a lie. Global warming, a key word used for the elite to grab their attention and foretell of meetings and everything else. Do you know what happened in 2004? That's when all the knowledge was solidified. The knowledge of global warming actually began in the 1900s. That's when the observations took place. In 2004, everything was solidified. Preparations were made in the 1930s and 40s so they could survive. Yes, they have underground bases. Who doubts that? And this won't be a talk about the underground bases, but I'm telling you, they do exist. They do exist. I mean, everybody should know the common underground bases. The CFR for Greenbrier, built in 1958-1962, that was build time. It was to allow people to operate and sustain them for 60 days. NORAD, Cheyenne Mountain, 1961-1965 build time. That's the Space Control Center, communications with the National Military Command. Iron Mountain, that's where the elite are protected. We can go on, China Lake, Mount Weather, Denver, Australia, Israel. They have underground bases there too. These things were built. 4 to 5 year build time back then. What do you think it is now? How vast do you think these structures are now? And I tell you, they're preparing for something. You know it as global warming, which began in 2004. Do you not know in 2004, global warming was actually placed on Net Geo's website, National Geographic, and it was also on Business Week. What's it doing in Business Week? And they give you the cover that somebody was trying to make money off of it. That was to throw you off the path. Let me tell you how they work. Can I just tell you how they work? Because global warming has to do with the exotic things that are coming into the solar system. They are intertwined, one in the same. Let me tell you how they work though. Because you not having certain knowledges, you're kept in the dark about many things. You can only believe what you see, and so you buy the paradigm of which they place before you. When they get somebody that grows up in their educational systems, they cause them to believe in a lie, and thus they go out with a sincere heart and begin to fight for that lie. Global warming. You see how that works? They actually do believe in global warming, those spokespersons. Because they sincerely believe you can always detect the sincerity. That's what keeps it plausible in your mind. It's important you understand this process. That's how they work. It's how they always have worked. Is everybody clear on that process? Like with the government, they raise a person telling them lies about the government, education. They pat them on the back and say, job well done, and then they place them in a position of power. That person wholeheartedly does their job, believing in what they're doing. They do that so that because you can always sense sincerity. I'm telling you that people have been raised into a lie. You have detected their sincerity, which causes you to believe in their cause. Then it spreads like a virus. This is what has happened to the world, and it's time that you look beyond it.
I know there's still some folks back in Washington who refuse to admit that climate change is real. And on a day like today, it's hard to get too worried about it. There are folks who will equivocate. They'll say, you know, I'm not a scientist. Well, I'm not either. But the best scientists in the world know that climate change is happening. Our analysts in the intelligence community know climate change is happening. Our military leaders, generals and admirals, active duty and retired, know it's happening. Our Homeland Security professionals know it is happening, and our Coast Guard knows it's happening. The science is indisputable.
We become a slave to a paradigm that's an illusion. All of what you see is not real, though it has real effects upon your life. You are simply maneuvered by a control system that you need to break free of. I'm trying to help you before it comes crumbling down, and then your heart starts pumping very fast. Because in your mind, you will think that your world came to an end. Men's hearts will fail them for fear, for looking after those things that are coming upon the world. That's not from one thing, that's from multiple things. 2004, global warming hit the front pages. Scientists, they already admitted back in 2004 and swept all that under the carpet. They didn't know the dynamics of climate change, and thus Princeton University was charged with the task of coming up with something, and coming up with something quick. Now when you talk about global warming, people get this question in their heads. They'll say, I don't believe in global warming, yet it's getting warmer every single year. So what they did was they threw out a word, and people began to chase and support the word with what's happening in the world. The conditions of global warming are absolutely 100% real. The earth is warming up. Radiation is building. Sickness is running rampant all over the earth. But why? You see, there are forces out there that mankind cannot comprehend. 2004, everything started. Why did it start in 2004? Because that was the impact of a magnetar. That's why. That was the impact of a magnetar. That's when the top of our atmosphere was ripped off by a wave sent by a magnetar. That's why. A piece of our atmosphere was ripped off and you didn't even know it in 2004. Nobody talked about that, did they? Anybody discuss that? No, they didn't. Oh, they had all the instrumentation in the world monitoring it. They were scared to death. They didn't know what would happen. They didn't know. But I'm telling you, they were deathly afraid because they saw it coming. They can see a lot of things coming. They're not going to tell you. For what good would that do? You would only get in the way. Telling you that in 2004, everything changed. And that's why in 2005, the United Nations had the Climate Change Conference.
We know that climate change is the single most important environmental issue facing the world today. The scientific evidence on climate change from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that met in Montreal in September, and from many others, is more compelling than ever. We know that the longer we wait, the larger will be the challenge and the damage from climate change. The broad-based consensus is that more action is required now.
How convenient. 2004, global warming, that discussion really takes off. And in 2005, they had the Climate Change Conference. How convenient. Ever since 2005, what have you noticed? A change in weather phenomena, a change in earthquake activity, a change with the other objects in space. That's why we send probes all over the place. For proof of something, yes, but to also monitor. We've got satellites and craft orbiting just about everything we can because they serve as an early warning system of what will happen to Earth. See, if something is just indigenous to Earth, maybe mankind can change it. But what we're having is not indigenous to Earth. It is not just for Earth. The entire solar system is beginning to do a wicked shimmy. And solar activity is a telltale sign of the exotic energy that's coming into the solar system. The sun acts as a shield to the entire solar system. The sun does, just as your skin acts as a shield to protect your insides and to keep things away from the precious internal portions of your body, right? So does the sun create a barrier to keep highly charged particles at bay. And every so often, it's pierced. The skin, we could say, that envelops our solar system is weakening. The things are coming through. There's nothing mankind can do about it. And it's coming. That was December 27th. Earth was impacted by that blast. 2004, December 27th. And And wouldn't you know it, we have another one coming in December. How strange. Why? Because there's a phenomenon in space called pulses, right? Pulses. Pulses happen at intervals. Normally when something blows, like a magnetar or something like that, it sends out multiple shock waves. It's like I don't know, triple, quadruple explosions, right? Well, they're headed towards Earth from more than one source. There's nothing anybody can do about it, which is why everybody's watching for the shock wave in October. We could have some severe atmospheric problems in October as the shock wave finally passes through Earth. It is believed right now that shock wave could affect at least 1/3 of our atmosphere. As far as the other effects, nobody knows. We do know that this thing is just charged with energy because it's coming from a source of almost pure energy. 2004, that magnetar just barely skipped us. In fact, it didn't even touch us, but it ripped off a portion of the atmosphere. I tell you this, when it passed, it was millions of miles away, but it still sucked off part of our atmosphere. That's a problem. I believe the distance of that pulse of the magnetar was about the distance from Earth to Mercury. That's the distance you're talking about, right? I'm sorry, twice the distance between Earth and Mercury. It was twice the distance, and it still popped off a piece of our atmosphere. Still, even with that distance. So can you begin to see what the Earth must undergo, what it's about to undergo? It's not a plaything. There were also psychological effects that took place in 2004 that have been evolving since then. Listen, a great war is also on the horizon. Now they're going to utilize the breakdown and the fracturing of this planet, and war will ensue. They're going to utilize this heavenly event, this event of a breakdown. They're going to use that to their advantage for war. The inhabitants of the earth will surely be few. I would go so far as to say 50% of humanity in the first phase of this war is going to be dead. Everybody with me so far? Just like CERN, right? There's a public side of CERN, and then there's the true side of CERN. I can assure you nobody's trying to collide little bitty particles and to find out what. I can assure you that's not the mission. What are they going to do? Cure cancer with it? No. It all leads back to something else. Now, there is the public side of science, of which people are passionate about, and that's the part they know. But listen to me close. In every single experiment, somebody collects the data. Who collects the data, not everybody's aware of. So what they're doing is having people who believe in the experiment, giving them a portion of a job. They go out and accomplish that job and spend their lifetime doing it so somebody else can collect the data, and they're doing something else with the results. But the people up top, they only know the experiment. They're saying, yes, we're doing our best in the experiment. It works. And that's how they get back online and say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. CERN has nothing to do with this, that, and the other. That's what the experts will say. CERN has nothing to do with this, that, and the other. Why? Because they're passionate about that compartmentalized task that they have. So they accomplish what they're given to accomplish, but as a whole, they don't know what it's producing. There's a portion of science that's a mystery to those folks. They're not educated in full sciences. Why in the world would anybody ever do that? If you had knowledge of all things, there's no way you could teach others knowledge of all things. They wouldn't have a precept for it. So those who know the exotic sciences and the rest of the sciences are the ones who are collecting the information, doing something with it. The particles are already coming through. They're already coming through, right? It's kind of like a fireplace. You light up a fireplace, right? You get near the fire and you start feeling the heat. The fire didn't pass through you, you didn't pass through the fire, but you feel the heat. What is that? Infrared light. All you're feeling is light. You know that? That's what you feel. Light. That's all you're feeling. What is that infrared light? It's radiation. Is it going to kill you? Well, if you're overexposed to it, it's going to burn you up. But your flesh reacts to the radiation. It raises your body temperature by exciting molecules in your flesh. Therefore, you feel heat. Heat is movement. Movement is heat. Okay, you got that? Heat is movement. Movement is heat. So when you get near something that's infrared, the molecules internally begin to move around a lot more, and then you feel heat, the heat of your body. In the same fashion, this wave is coming through. What it emits, the solar system is responding to, just like your skin responds to infrared light. So does the solar system respond to these exotic particles coming in, because the source is coming close. The source of these waves is coming close. Now, close does not mean right there where you can see it. I can assure you that, but prior to you seeing anything, this world is going to rumble like you never saw before. You telling me this second wave is not going to impact humanity? I'm telling you it is. In October, we're going to find out some details, good or bad. We'll put them out there. You're going to hear many things. But it's always good to have your ears open to the Holy Spirit and the truth that is within you. That when it is time to do something, you move. And when it is not time to do something, you stay still. Because it could be life or death to you. That means I don't have the final word on what you must do. The Lord does. Not one man on earth has the final word for what you must do. The Lord knows what you must do. And because he said he will never leave you nor forsake you, he will instruct you. Okay? So as I go through these things, I can only advise. But you must have your ear open to the Lord. Because if you don't, you're going to follow the advice of man, and by that man's words you may die.